Hey guys, Mary here from Mary's Heirloom Seeds for another fun video. So I have an idea and I would like to start doing videos based on questions we get from our customers. So if you have a question and you'd like to be featured, please send an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com and we will try to answer your question. Now, I recently received an email from a customer and they were asking about crop rotation. So specifically, they were interested in what to plant after beans. So that is an excellent question. And we'll discuss a little bit about what crop rotation is as well. In the description section of this video, you will find links to Mary's Heirloom Seeds. You will also find links to our planting guides, seed starting guides, germination, all that awesome stuff. And like I mentioned, if you do have specific questions, you can always send an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. Now, if you're practicing crop rotation in your own garden and you planted beans, what are you going to plant afterwards in your next crop? Now, because beans enrich the soil with nitrogen, you would be doing really well if you planted leafy green crops that thrive on nitrogen, such as kale, Swiss chard, you've got lettuce, spinach, and even cabbage. Garlic is another option for you as well after your beans. Now, let's talk about what is crop rotation. Crop rotation is just simply the practice of cycling your plants through your garden. So if you see back behind me here, I've got all greens here. Now, the previous plants in this raised bed were squash and companion plants such as nasturtium, borage, and marigold. So because those were heavy feeders, I wanted to plant something that isn't such a heavy feeder, and also so that I'm not continuing any kind of cycle of disease. So crop rotation is really helpful in that. Now, nitrogen fixing beans, for example, or alfalfa as well, those would be what you would want to plant, like I said before, some leafy greens. Now, another great thing, it's a little windy out here, another great thing about crop rotation is it helps to possibly stop the cycle of diseases, plant diseases. So, for example, if I had powdery mildew in my squash, I didn't, but if I did, I wouldn't want to plant squash in the same bed. Again, I would want to plant something that isn't going to be concerned with powdery mildew. Another thing, crop rotation helps with root issues. So if you had root knot nematodes, you can plant marigolds and then till them into the soil or bury them into the soil, but also you wouldn't want to necessarily plant the same thing afterwards. So if I had root knot nematodes in my tomatoes, I definitely wouldn't want to plant tomatoes again. Crop rotation helps against diseases and pathogens so that you're cycling through, so that you're not planting the same thing and having the same issues over and over. So if you don't have a host for that disease or that infection, then you're going to be better off, again, with crop rotation. So here's my suggestion to you. If you want to let your soil rest, that's a great option. Another option would be cover crops, and that is, again, another way to cycle your crops through crop rotation. Some great and easy cover crops would be alfalfa or vetch or clover. These are some things that are typically grown and then turned over into the soil to give you some green manure. Green manure is awesome. It's almost as awesome as the manure we use in our garden as well. I kind of get excited about talking about the different manures, and if you have questions about using the different manures in your garden, in the description section of this video, you will find links to several of the YouTube videos that we did highlighting different animal manures for your garden. So crop rotation is awesome. I always try to keep my videos simple and easy for you to understand and then to put into practice in your garden. So if you have struggled this year or in the past with different issues, different pathogen issues. If you've had diseases, if you've had things like cabbage loopers or corn worms or squash vine borers, that's a big deal for a lot of people. Or again, like the tomatoes you see behind me, if you've had issues with tomato hornworms. Cycling your crops should help you battle some of those diseases and pathogens and pests in your garden. So crop rotation doesn't necessarily have to be for these mega crops that people, big time farmers are growing hundreds of acres. You can do it in your own garden. It doesn't have to be a raised bed. It can be in the soil. But all of these things can be done on a small scale as well as a large scale. So crop rotation is super important. So those tomatoes in the back, I didn't have tomatoes planted there last season. I had something different. I think I had beets in there. So I planted tomatoes, and I might put some more beets in there again. So if you have any questions, you can always send an email, like I mentioned, to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. This has been my short and sweet example and informational video about crop rotation. If you have any questions, send me an email. If you've enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. I'm Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds signing off, and happy planting.